In American folklore, 115 men, women, and children vanished into thin air. They left behind an empty settlement, no bodies, and a single carved word. For over 4 centuries, it has been treated as a ghost story, but the forensic evidence points to something else entirely. This map illustrates the reality of the 1580s. Spain had already secured a vast, wealthy empire across the Americas. England, by contrast, had nothing. Queen Elizabeth desperately needed a permanent foothold in North America to compete. England's first attempt was a small military outpost established on Roanoke Island in 1585. It collapsed within a year. Dwindling supplies and worsening hostilities with the local Algonquian-speaking populations forced the surviving soldiers to abandon the site. 2 years later, explorer Sir Walter Raleigh tried again, under the command of Governor John White. Instead of soldiers, this 1587 expedition carried civilians. A military unit can retreat when provisions run out. A colony of families, carrying their tools and belongings, has no choice but to find a way to survive and establish a multi-generational society, no matter the conditions on the ground. The civilian expedition went wrong before they even unpacked. The colonists were supposed to settle on the Chesapeake Bay, far to the north. Instead, their pilot refused to sail further, dumping the families at the exact site of the failed 1585 outpost. Despite inadequate provisions, they got to work. On August 18th, John White's daughter gave birth to Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. With winter approaching and food reserves dropping rapidly, the colonists urged their governor to return to England. Reluctantly, White left his daughter and newborn granddaughter behind to secure a massive resupply fleet. Before White boarded his ship, the group agreed on a highly specific evacuation protocol. If the settlement ran out of food and had to relocate, they would carve their destination into a tree or a palisade post. They added a secondary critical condition. If they were forced to flee, under duress or violent attack, they would carve a Maltese cross above the destination word. The colonists did not expect to vanish. They built a layered, coded communication system precisely because they anticipated a highly organized relocation. White arrived in England bracing for war. Spain was launching its armada, and Queen Elizabeth ordered every available sailing ship held back for national defense. White's resupply mission was grounded, trapping him an ocean away for 3 years. When White finally stepped back onto Roanoke Island in August 1590, on his granddaughter's 3rd birthday, he fired signal cannons. No one answered. The settlement inside the palisade wall was entirely empty. The houses were not burned or ruined. They had been carefully dismantled, the timber packed up as if prepared for transport. There were no bodies. There were no graves. No ash and no blood. Heavy cargo the colonists couldn't easily carry, including several of White's own chests of books, had been buried in trenches. The ground had been dug up later and the chests rummaged through, likely by scavengers. Sudden massacres leave wreckage. Hurricanes leave scattered debris.
A neatly disassembled town leaves only one conclusion: a calm, deliberate relocation by people who took their usable materials with them. White found the primary signal exactly as agreed. Carved neatly into a palisade post in capital letters was a single word: Croatoan. Crucially, White checked the post for the secondary signal. There was no Maltese cross. Whatever prompted the move, it had not been an attack. Looking at the geography, Croatoan was a logical destination, an island 50 miles south, home to an allied indigenous nation led by Monteo, their former interpreter. White prepared to sail, but before the short journey began, a severe coastal storm struck, severing their anchor cables. Fearing they would not survive the Atlantic crossing home if they sustained any more damage, White's crew mutinied. They refused to sail to Croatoan, turning the ships back to England. White was forced to abandon his family forever. The settlers left a forward address. The greatest mystery in early American history exists simply because a random weather event prevented a 50-mile rescue trip. To understand why they left, look at this bald cypress tree cross-section. Scientists found a tightly compressed ring cluster exactly when the colony was active. These rings indicate massive lack of rainfall. The colonists arrived during the most severe multi-year drought in 800 years. With English crops failing and local native resources strained to the breaking point, staying on Roanoke Island meant certain starvation. Popular theories over the years have blamed Spanish military raids or massive hurricanes, but neither hostile raids nor violent storms account for the neatly disassembled houses or the absence of the distress cross. In the 1930s, a series of carved stones surfaced, claiming to be messages from Eleanor Dare, detailing the gruesome deaths of the colonists. Respected historians studied them before they were exposed as an elaborate hoax. For centuries, people have manufactured dramatic ghost stories to fill the silence, but the physical data points to a highly pragmatic, terrifying reality of agricultural failure and mass starvation. Driven by famine, the colonists likely followed their own signpost. The most widely supported theory among historians is a planned, peaceful relocation to Croatoan Island to live among Mantio's people. Modern archaeological digs on Hatteras Island, the site of historical Croatoan, support this. Excavators have recovered 16th-century English gun parts and signet rings, intermingled directly with Native American tools and pottery. Facing limited food resources, the 115 settlers may have also split into smaller groups, migrating inland to integrate with the Chawanok or other regional tribes along the Albemarle Sound. Even a darker rumor recorded decades later at Jamestown, that Chief Powhatan ordered the killing of English settlers near the Chesapeake, suggests that, if true, the colonists had survived and successfully assimilated for nearly 20 years before encountering conflict. The Lost Colony did not fall into the sea. Facing starvation and abandonment, they made a rational choice to seek refuge with sovereign indigenous nations. They survived by simply ceasing to be English.